Welcome to yet another episode of Applied Salesforce. Here I shall walk you through an exciting micro project involving screen flows, record types, list buttons, navigation, and visibility of screen components based on conditions. So, without much ado, let's dive in. First, the requirements. Kali, VP of Applications at upquotient.com, a career builder, transformer, and an amplifier company, has entrusted you, an accomplished Salesforce admin, to build the crucial requirements as outlined below. So, the requirements are employees of upquotient.com travel very frequently to both domestic and international destinations, and Kali wanted to have an intuitive way to capture the details, the travel details, which should include start date, end date, activity, trip description, destination state, and country. And he wanted you, the accomplished admin, Salesforce admin, to build a wizard which first classifies the type of trip, because there are two types, the two segments of the travel, which is domestic and international, and then only show relevant fields and drop down values. So each of these segments are subtly different when it comes to the field or fields that's needs to be exposed and the pick list values. Then he also wanted to place a button on the entity's home tab to invoke the wizard. And when the trip details are successfully created, the user should be navigated back to the home tab. So it is at a very high level requirements, and it is customary for you to brood over this and also engage the stakeholder, in this case Kali, to further probe and understand deeply what exactly he wanted. So upon after probing, you got to the solution. The solution is finalized. Let us get through the solution. A custom object, it warrants custom object, and you name it as travel approval with the following fields: trip start date, trip end date, both of type date, trip description, text area, and the activity. It's a pick list with below values. So domestic presentation, domestic carry, domestic workshop, international lang translation, international functional workshop, and international tech enablement. These are the pick list values. A destination state to be exposed as a text field, country to be exposed as a text field. And upon further investigation, you understood that the segmentation, what Kali was talking about, could be easily achieved with the help of record types. So you decided to create two record types, one for domestic and other international. And the field or fields and the pick list values that ought to be available when travel approval requests records of type domestic to be when it is created, of type domestic is created. So the activity pick list values only starting with domestic. So when domestic type is selected and the employee is trying to create the travel approval request, the activity pick list should only show the value starting with domestic. So these three, okay? And for international, it should only show these starting with international. And the country field display. The country field should be displayed when employees are logging the travel requests for international destinations. So the country field should be displayed then, but not for domestic travel. So two variations. One is the activity pick list field values, and second is the country field. This varies depends on the record type. And the screen flow. So we decided the wizard could be created with the help of a screen flow and couple of screen components to be created, and then yeah, so and appropriate elements, the flow steps. So we'll see that as we build the flow. And the last one is about the list button to be created inside the travel approval list view. And once the button is pressed, uh, automatically your flow should be invoked. And once the process is complete, it should navigate back. It should help the user to navigate back to the travel approval list view, specifically the recently viewed list view. Okay, so the technical design is complete. It's looks really robust. Let's dive in to build the flow. Let's go to the flow screen. Okay, so here we move. First, probably I'll show the object, the travel approval object with the activity. It's a pick list. Country, it's text. Destination, state, text. There's a record type. Uh, then trip description, trip start date and end date. The record types, we created two record types with appropriate page layouts, domestic and international. Okay, so this is the framework upon which you build the flow. And okay, so when you click new, it shows up domestic and international. Click on next. So when you try to create domestic, right, so you have trip start date, end date, trip description, activity, it just shows domestic, uh, the value starting with domestic, and the destination states. There's absolutely no country field here. Okay, so when you select international, you could see the difference. You have the country field, and the activity has just the international activity pick list field has just the international um, values, international pick list values. Okay, let's get into the flow now. So I've just created the framework, the core part A to be built. Okay, so I have the first screen. Okay, it's a blank screen. It's a screen component. I just named it as new travel approval. um, and you know the footer is configured. You could say the use a custom label, pick, type and proceed. So this essentially facilitates picking the right record type. Okay, so that is the goal of this particular screen component. So let me build that. So let us pick the pick list component, drag and drop it in the flow, label it as pick record type. Okay, a record type. I put it as required text, and the component type is going to be pick list, and the choice. Okay, so this is pretty important. There are multiple ways how you could populate a pick list value. Okay, so let's check that. So the resource type is going to be, in our case, it's going to be record choice set. So what it does is generate a set of choices using a filtered list of records. It's as good as looking up onto an object and pulling the records and showing specific value that is available as a field inside those set of records. Okay, so this one record choice set works perfectly for us. So let's build one. The API name is record type. Okay, let's say TA. So TA record type, record choice, record choice. Okay. Description, you could say, you can enter the description for reference. And the object is going to be, record type. So this is important to understand because when you create record types inside of an entity, it doesn't really get stored into that entity, right? So you have a separate entity called as a record type where it actually gets stored, and it is kind of a lookup. Okay, so inside your main entity, so in this case, the travel approval entity, you only have the ID. Okay, so maybe I can show you the fields that's available as part of the record type entity. So here I have the query ready. So from record type, so record type is an entity which stores the record types that you create. Okay, so these are the fields. Uh, you could say ID, S object type, name, description, and developer name. And the S object type field, this becomes handy because it shows the different entities on which record types have been created. In our case, we created two record types on travel approval entity. And you could see the name as domestic and international with all the other details. The name, this is the label, and this is the API name, domestic and international. Okay, so let's pull the the record type values from this particular entity, which is record type. That's exactly what we are trying to do. So the object is record type. Okay, and the conditions, I am looking for as object type, which is this, right? So as object type, which is this, and I'm looking for travel and approval underscore underscore C. Okay, so I look for travel approval equals travel approval underscore underscore C. So you find the entities, okay, which has the record types created as the value. Okay, you pick that value, either copy paste or pick that value, and this is the condition. And so this is filtering, right? So it is trying to filter the the records. So obviously I would get these two. Okay, obviously after this filter I would get these two, domestic and international. Yeah, these two records. Okay, and the choice label, so this is what you wanted to show inside of the pick list. So obviously I wanted the name to be shown. Okay, I wanted the name to be shown to the end user. Okay, and okay, so when, okay, what it says is store more record type field values. Okay, so let me, sorry, choice label is this. Okay, so the choice label is name. Okay, the choice label is name, and the data type is going to be text, and the choice value. Okay, so the name, the choice label shows the, shows the value that is displayed inside the pick list. Okay, and which is of data type text, and the choice value is the ID. So when I choose the specific value, what ID should I use inside my flow? So the ID is returned. Okay, the display is name, but when I choose the name, let's say domestic, the ID pertaining to domestic is returned into the flow. Okay, so that is as good as this. Okay, so when I choose domestic, let's say when I choose domestic, I wanted to get an handle to the ID. Okay, because I wanted to use the ID inside of the flow. Just not the ID, there is one more field I wanted to make use of. But for now, you could say the name is chosen, either domestic or international, and what exact value I wanted to be returned is the ID. Okay, and just not the ID, I wanted one more field to be returned that I will use later inside the flow. So I wanted a specific field, maybe the developer name, which is nothing but the API name, to be returned. So I, okay, the variable record type pick list screen component. So I need to create a variable because this doesn't allow me to, create one to on the fly. So let me see, can close this and first create a variable. Okay, I close this, first create a variable, new resource, and it's going to be a variable, and the API name is, the selected record type, selected RT. Okay, so selected TART record type name. Okay, then the data type is going to be text, and this is done. Okay, so now the variable is created. So let's go back and configure our pick list. Okay, and let's name it as record type pick record type. This is required. And yeah, the pick list, the choice, right? So we navigated all the way here. So record choice set, this is what is appropriate. I'd say that, TA record type, record choice, okay, TA record type, record choice set, RCS. And the object is going to be our record type. You understand why we choose this. And the field is as object type. Okay, we look for the travel approval underscore C entity. This is the API name of that entity. And the choice, I wanted to show the name, okay, to the user, the record type name to the user. And when the record type name is specific name is selected, either domestic or international, I wanted to pass the ID back into the flow. And I also wanted additional field to be populated. Okay, so additional variable with a specific field value to be populated. The field value is nothing but the developer name. I want to populate inside the selected TA record type name. So this is a flow variable that I will use later on inside the flow. So this is perfect. Let's click on done. Let's click on done. Okay, and save. And now let's debug and see. Okay, just debug, because each step, you build, and if it is appropriate, you can click on debug to see if it really, works as expected, rather than doing it as a big bang, testing it in a big bang mode. So pick record type, fantastic. You get domestic and international pulled out. Okay, that is cool. So let's move on to the next step, the screen. Okay, so this is exactly where you capture the details, okay, the travel approval details. So the insignificant fields I've already put in. So it has the trip start date, end date, trip description, destination, state, country, etc. So what is more important here is, you have a pick list value called as activity, right? So that the pick list value, that activity ought to be created. Okay, but this activity, you have the variations here. Okay, so domestic, I need to see only the three pick list values. For international, the other three. Okay, so we need to go with a hack. There is no straightforward way to get the pick list values aligned to record types. Okay, there is no straightforward way. So let's think of a hack. Okay, so either we can, this is, we are looking only at a configure the point and click solution, the declarative solution. Okay, there are other ways using UI API and no as object described methods in Apex to get this information. But we, in this micro project, we look only at a declarative means. So let's go with a hack. Okay, so I wanted the activity pick list to be made available. So I go with the pick list component, second place inside here. Yeah. Okay. And the label, I'll name it as AC activity underscore, sorry, activity. But this one, the API name, I will make it as domestic. Okay. So activity, which is domestic, and type is going to be text. Okay, and the choice, we can actually give hard code. This we are hard coding. Okay, for instance, in this is a hack that we are trying to experiment. So the choice is going to be hard coded. Let's say it is domestic. Let's look at these three values. So you can create a new choice. Okay, API name, just hold on, enter value. Okay, create a choice. The second one, domestic KD, add a choice. Okay, and the third one is again domestic workshop. Click here and add this. Okay, so the activity domestic is complete. Okay, it is complete, but we need to also, set the visibility. Okay, so this particular pick list should only be visible, right? Should only be visible when the record type chosen is domestic. Okay, so set the component visibility to all conditions are met. The resource, we have the pick list, we had the flow variable, you remember? Let's look at the variables. So selected TA record type name. Okay, that equals domestic because we know. Okay, if it is domestic, just show this. Okay, and then the second pick list again, which is activity, and this time it is going to be activity international. Okay, and similarly you can create the choice. It's kind of, it's a hack. Click here, add this, then again the second pick list value, click add, and the third pick list value, add, and again set the component visibility. All conditions are met. Here the variable with selected TA record type name equals international. Okay, click on done. We have to also set the visibility for the country, because this country field should only be the component, screen component should only be available for international type, travel approval record type. So the set component visibility, all conditions are met. This is TA record type name is only international. Okay, done. And it is done. Okay, and let's again debug and see if it works perfectly. Click on debug. The second step that we have completed. So look at domestic, uh, move on to the next one. So we would be interested to see just the domestic. Perfect. And country is missing. Fantastic. So let's go back, choose international, pick type and proceed. Activity, all international, and the country is visible. Fantastic. So I think we have accomplished these two. The third one is about create. Okay, again, this is also a hack here. So let's say the object, the insignificant assignment is all set already. So the object, the record I'm creating on travel approval object, and I have this activity field that I have currently put it as null, but this here is another hack that you will have to implement. And the country is from the screen component, right? The country screen component. If it is available, it will populate, else it will populate null. uh, Absolutely no worries on from this perspective. And the destination state, yes, of course, directly from the screen component. Destination state, a record type, this needs to be populated. Okay, and other than that, trip end date and trip start date, all directly from the screen components. So two areas we need to focus on. One is the activity and second is the record type ID. So record type ID, we already have it directly inside of the screen component, right, with the pick list value. So let's map that first. So record type ID would essentially be mapped to uh, okay, selected, that is the name. We have one more, activity international. uh, let's check that. It's not the choice, it's a screen component. Activity country destination, pick record type. Yeah, so you could see that here. Mm, yes, this pick record type. Okay, so that's the pick list record choice set that we created into the first screen component. So that goes here. And for the activity, right? So this is a hack again, because now the activity values could be in two different pick list, pick list screen component. Okay, so we need to, get uh, get that into a formula, and then inject the formula value into this activity, because at any point in time, either the activity domestic pick list screen component or the activity international pick list screen component uh, may have the value depending on the record type that you have chosen. Okay, so let's create a formula. Okay, so let's create a formula. So I'm sure that we can uh, yeah, so I'm sure that we can do that here directly. Let's check that. Yes, new resource. Let's have the formula. API name is, activity final activity pick list value. Okay. Select data type is going to be text for sure. And the formula says if, right, uh, insert resource, the pick list value that is chosen, right? I think we can use selected TA name. Okay, I'll say this equals domestic. Okay, then it is going to spit out the value from the domestic activity. All right, so activity domestic. And if it is not, so the value would come from activity international. Yes, activity international. Okay, and let's check syntax. It's valid. Cool this. Okay, so why it is variable formulas. Okay, pick it up from the formulas. Formulas. Okay, so activity is mapped and all other fields are mapped, including the record type ID. And if you want to assign the row ID of the travel approval record that just created, you may add another resource. Okay, the variable new resource, it's a variable API time. API name is TA record row ID, created, let's say created or new, right? So it could be new TA row ID. Data type is going to be text. Okay, it's done. Cool. Save this. So let's debug. Click on run. Domestic. Let's do this. Start date is 18th. Trip end date is, I've not added the validation. Okay, the validation, there's another video. Um, I wanted to make it very sleek and to the point. So activity, you could say presentation, trip description, uh, a presentation of the new to holders, destination state is TN. Okay, click on save, and let's look at the travel approval that got created. Fantastic. So it has created. Let's look at how this works for international. Debug again. Run international type. Trip start date, maybe this. End date is on 10th. Activity is, yeah, it shows the right activity. Trip description, workshop on flows to international USA DX and USA. Save. Let's check if this gets created here. Cool. So record type is also set automatically. You could see this. Okay. So that's fantastic. So the what is remaining now is, a screen flow is done. This is done. A list button. So let's quickly create that as well. So navigate to your travel approval entity, buttons, links, and actions, and new button or link. And meanwhile, you can grab the, okay, so you need to activate this. Okay, you activate, you navigate back, and let's say, okay, which is the one. Yeah, this is the one. Okay, rather, I will navigate here to, yes, and grab the flow URL. Okay, this will become handy. That's the flow URL. Okay, and let's navigate back to the button. Let's say new travel approval. It's going to be the list button, and I retain the behavior as what is chosen by default. Content source is going to be URL. Now you need to place the, this is the format that you can use for both invocation of the flow and redirecting the flow back to the, to the view. Okay, so the flow URL we already have here. Okay, the flow URL, I can paste it here. The return URL is what you need to grab from, okay, from this. Okay, I wanted, after creation, I wanted the user to be navigated to this particular flow. So from the domain, just after the domain, you can grab, including the /, you can grab the URL. Okay, so this is all. You can also go to the recently viewed and then grab it if required. So let us check this one. Okay. Okay, so I think as per the requirement, it is it is the recently viewed. So let us set this up now. Object manager, travel approval. Okay, and the search layout. Let me add the few other fields. It could be the activity, destination, state, start and end date, trip description. Okay, so let me pull this up. And date, activity, destination, state. Okay, so let's have this. Okay, save this. And yeah, so and this button, right? So we have started off with this, and let's refresh this so you could see the list of the list view displaying the fields that we just added. Now you grab the return URL. Okay, just after, you could see just after the domain. Okay, just after the domain, grab this URL and navigate to the button and this, place that here. Okay, and you can check the syntax. All fine. Click on save, and you need to add this list button. So you could see the list view button layout. Edit this. Okay, and You need to add the button. You could see the button, new travel approval, add the button, click on save. So after this, you should see the button, right? You should see the button inside of your travel approval records here at the top. Okay, travel approval homepage, you could say new travel approval. So let's do that now. Click travel, new travel approval. Let's see if it opens up. Yes, of course. So the new travel approval, pick the record, let's say international travel. Click on next. The trip start date is going to be 24th. The trip end date is going to be 30th. Activity is, the tech enablement. Trip description, uh, onshore with tech topics. Destination state is TX, or maybe let's travel to New York. Okay, cool. Click on save. Fantastic. Okay, so we have our travel approval records created with appropriate record type. You could see that. You have the country and activity, all international. Okay, I think this is perfect. Although we had, leveraged a couple of hacks, this works perfectly fine. It's all declarative solution. Okay, so that's it for this episode. Thank you very much indeed for watching. Take care. Bye bye.